My name is Brian, and we are today going to be looking at a lot of things that are making rounds and making headlines in the world of sports, and beginning from the local scene. Of course, this week, Uganda, you remember that we had two games that were played in the World Cup qualifiers. We had Uganda versus Botswana, a game that we won, and then the other game was against Algeria, a game that we lost miserably, not miserably like as such, but it was not a good game to lose if you are a home team, especially against a team that we all know were the favorites. We knew exactly what they would do in the last game they played against us, the way they played against us, and the way they won the game is the same way they won the game here in Nambole. So that game we lost it, and according to the latest FIFA rankings that were released earlier this week, Uganda seem to have dropped into the 94th position. They are keeping, of course, they're dropping every single day that goes by, and of course we fell 2 positions from where we were last month, and of course the fall attributed mainly to the home defeat to Algeria in the FIFA World Cup qualifiers. In the same window, of course, we beat Botswana, like I told you, 1-0 on return to Mandela Stadium, and of course Algeria, the team that beat us, and now 44th, they also fell as well. They dropped in the same way that Guinea, that is also part of our group, also fell to the 77th positions. Of course, we all know that the other group contenders in that Group F that we are in, Mozambique, the other party that also performed very well, I think they rose to 103rd, where, of course, we also have Botswana 145, and the other team that is a Somalia in the same group in they had 202nd position respectively. In East Africa, Rwanda remains, of course, in one constant position in 131st position. Kenya slipped to the 108th, while Tanzania rose to 114th in that FIFA rankings. In the world, Algeria, of course, like I told you, are ranked. Algeria ranked. No, of course, I told you about African rankings. But in the world, let me begin with Argentina. Argentina ranked first. France are ranked second. Belgium are ranked third. Brazil are ranked fourth. England are fifth. We have Portugal sixth. We have Netherlands seventh. Spain eighth. Croatia ninth. Italy 10th in the best of, that is 10 teams. In Africa here, Morocco first, we have Senegal second, Egypt third, Ivory Coast fourth, we have Nigeria fifth, we have Tunisia sixth. I'm talking about African rankings, the best teams in Africa. Algeria, like I told you, are 7th, but in the world they are 44th. Cameroon are 8th. We have Mali 9th. South Africa are 10th, and of course the best ranked nation, like you've seen here, is Morocco. In the world, they're ranked number 12, and Senegal are ranked number 18. The rest, Egypt and all the other teams, begin from 36th position up, and it shows you that we are not, of course, performing very well as nations from Africa. But there was also a CAF Executive Committee that was held yesterday, and is still on. While you're watching those pictures, we have, of course, the 2025 African Cup of Nations that will take place between December and January. That is 2025. It was confirmed that Morocco are going to be the hosts of the tournament, and yesterday, of course, a lot of things were confirmed. One of them being that, according to the executive over the EXO committee, it confirmed that the next Women's AFCON will also be held between July 5th, 25 and July 26th, 2025, also in Morocco. And according to the CAF president, the gentleman by the names of Dr. Patrice Motsope, he came out and said he's very confident that CAF Energy's African Cup of Nations Morocco 2025 will extremely be successful, according to him, and will be the best that AFCON that we've had in history, according to them. Of course, the announcement of the dates was a little bit delayed. It was expected to be taking longer because there were complex issues and challenging discussions that involved a lot of various interest parties. You remember very well that the international calendar, the FIFA calendar, has a lot of games. You have the Europe calendar as well that has a lot of games. But according to the president, he committed he's committed to protecting as well as advancing the interest of African players as well as Africa as a whole. So wherever they are playing, especially in England, you remember there was even a proposal from Europe coming out and demanding that we extend our games to the summer instead of having the African Cup of Nations in January, because it kind of like alternates their fixture and affects the players that are playing in some of the big clubs in Europe. So that was a proposal, but I think Africa stuck to their guns, and they were expected to really bow down to the pressure from Europe because of the high level of cash injections that come from the players that play from abroad. But now it seems like we are going to be continuing with our calendar, and you remember that Morocco were crowned champions of 1998. So that was the first African to reach the World Cup semi-finals in 2022. So we've been performing very well, and when you see the recent games that we've played, you expect that Africa as a whole will really be performing to their best. But of course, the 2024 edition was held in Ivory Coast, and of course, it was the host that beat Nigeria in a final that was very highly contested for. So you expect the usual contenders like Morocco, Algeria, and all the Arab teams in northern Uganda and the Western teams to come and put up a very good show when it comes to the next edition that is going to be on all the way in that is 2025. So the confirmed dates, the opening match is going to be Sunday, 21st December 2025. That is the date for the AFCON 2025 in Morocco. And the final match will be played on Sunday, 18th. That is January 2026. That is after everything has been done. And for the women as well, because you all know that women football is now getting to the elevated level, the women also are going to be having their games starting on Saturday the 5th of July 2025, as well as the final match on Saturday the 26th of July 2025. The opening match is 5th July, the closing match is 26th July. So you expect a lot of women teams to come in and perform in one or another, and of course it's becoming a requirement for all the nations that are playing in the CAF related tournaments to have women in there. All the national teams to perform very well. You remember Uganda in the All African Games, they finished in the silver position, in the third position. They really performed very well. I think they beat one of the big nations in there. In that tournament, they had beaten the likes of Nigeria. They had beaten so many good teams in there. So you expect the women game as well to be elevated. In fact, with the women's game, I think we have a game this weekend in the local scene, if I'm not mistaken. We have a game. It's going to be She Corporates that are, you remember they triumphed in the FUFA Women Elite League, and they are going to be playing in the Women Cup final, and they are going to be against the Rene SS. It's a highly anticipated game, and you expect it to be a very competitive game. So it's also another game that you can watch on the local scene here. But the women's game, like I was saying, is getting to the next level, and everyone really appreciates the efforts that have been put in, especially from the local clubs, because now each local club are really looking for a feeder women club. They are looking for a club that they can really inject in money to become their partner club, because when you go all the way to the level of CAF Confederation, CAF Champions League, they will require you to have at least a women's team. So that is a requirement that CAF is really putting in place for all the teams that are going to play on the level of the CAF competitions. And I really think that if you really want to promote the women's game, which is really now getting profitable, because we have players that are being bought for a lot of money. We have even crowds standing up. Like I always say, the Women's Super League all the way in England is really giving us all the ideas. You'll notice that, we've had over 3 records this season of over 60,000 people attending a game at the Emirates Stadium in that, women highly contested for trophy. So you've had the likes of Chelsea that have won the trophy for over 4 consecutive seasons or 3 consecutive seasons, doing a lot when it comes to injecting money, buying players like from Mexico and all the other nations. So if we have better players here that have done that have given at least put their mark on the women's game, then we will see them go and being bought by a lot of teams in Europe. So we expect it to be something that is elevated, especially in the next coming years, because I still believe that FIFA as an entity really love the women's game. Himself, Mr. Magogo, having a women's team that he's also, supported, and he has created in his, in his fund, in his, collection of teams that he's putting in the money. So I really, really think that the women's game is going to get to the next level when you look at that. So that is the CAF level of games that we expect to be played in one another. And of course, like I really want to really go very fast in the local scene. The other big story as well this week, we had Vipers appointing a new coach, Mr. Nikola Kavezovic, coming out and being appointed the new coach of Vipers. And of course, that is a story that has been happening the whole week. But what I wanted to talk about this story, is the highlight of everything was the things that Mr. Mulindwa said, especially when it comes to appointing this manager. A lot of people have been questioning, why do you have to appoint always a foreigner to come and coach even a local club here? Aren't there local coaches that are in there? Mr. Murinda coming out and, of course, coming out and saying that the local coaches lack professionalism, and the way they carry themselves, especially off the pitch, really leaves a lot to be desired. So there's no way they can give a better example to the players that they coach or the other upcoming generation. This gentleman that was appointed is a UEFA A license holder, and of course he has been enrolled on the UEFA Pro license with the Football Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and of course the contract he signed is a two-year contract, and he's replacing Mr. Livingstone Mbabazi. You remember he left the club before the end of the season, where he left Richard Waswa as the interim manager, and he has worked. This gentleman has worked in over 11 countries, where he has coached clubs in there, and of course he has also coached it's called Tajikistan national team. He has been there from 2012 to 2013. He has also been in the Sri Lanka national team as well between 2014 and 2015. He has coached Ethiopian Coffee, that is August 2023 to June 2024. He has been at Township Robbers. He has been at Free State Stars as well. He has been at Township Rovers as well. So he has had enough experience. A lot of teams that he has coached, I cannot go through the whole list, but he has had experience on the African scene. If you've coached a team like Free State, Stars in South Africa, then that shows you, is it in South Africa? Then it shows you that you can at least have experience to coach in Uganda. I don't really think that, of course, the demands of the local game will be the same in the different nations, but I think that Africa is Africa. Wherever you go, be it in East Africa, be it in West Africa, it will also be a challenge that you'll face, that you need to adapt to every nation as it comes, and you need to adapt to the different football disciplines in different nations. So I really think that in Uganda here, the only challenge that you'll have to face is the pressure that comes with Vipers, especially with the owner of the club. Mr. Lawrence Mulindwa is not an easy man to work with, especially if you don't meet exactly the demands of the clubs that he has set in place. So I really think that it will be another journey for him, but let's wait and see. I won't comment on what we would expect from there, but let's wait and see what will be happening from Vipers FC. We also have a lot of transfer talk that is coming in from Uganda. Let me just go through a few of them that are really making the headlines in there. There's been a lot of movement and talk of movement this week, especially from the local scene, and I really think that we need to talk about some of the best players. There is something about our players that people are starting to notice, and we are seeing clubs around East Africa, around Africa, coming in and really demanding these players to sign them, because they've seen them perform, especially against the big teams in the recently concluded games in the World Cup qualifiers. But even on the club level, we are seeing some of them performing. And of course, one of them is Vipers confirming that gentleman by the names of Derek Ndahiro, of course, coming out and joining them on that is a 2-year employment contract. And of course, they've confirmed that he's joined them from running his outfit, Police FC, on a 2-year deal. Becomes the first signing, of course, over the season. That gentleman by the names of Derek Ndahiro. We also have another player is called called by the names of Henry Kitengenyi. Is also another player that has extended his contract. Henry Kitengenyi, he has extended his contract at that is Mbara City for additional 3 years, keeping him at the club until 2027. He has been very pivotal in the games they played this season since joining them from Vipers in the 2020-21 season. And last season alone, he's managed to score 8 goals and in 27 appearances, he recorded 30 shots on target. That shows you how much he's been so much interested in getting the results in there. And on the other side, Wakiso Giants are set to appoint Stephen Bengo as their new head coach to replace Joan Ayala Yurinda. Bengo is expected to work with, of course, Tony Maweje as a coaching partner. So he's elevating himself in his coaching career as well. So that is how things are happening in there. There's also talk of Stephen Mukwala, that gentleman, of course, who plays his plight all the way in Asante Kotoko in Ghana. He's been one of the few players that have been very, very so much performing in that Ghanaian league. And of course, with his pace and his scoring skills, he's one of the players that has been very so much needed. And I've got information that Tanzanian Premier League giants are set to really look at him. So we are waiting to see which really team is really looking forward to signing him in there. There's also talk of Bull FC in advanced talks with Isaac Wangoina from Express FC. He's one of the most sought out 4 strikers in Uganda here. He scored 14 goals and provided 3 assists in 29 games that he played for Express FC. You remember Express finished 12th in their table in last season's league, so we are waiting to see. That gentleman, before he joined them, I think he was a top scorer in the 2023 drum tournament with 7 goals while playing in, of course, Busoga province. So he's one player that has really been having a steady progress. So we are waiting to see how he'll be for performing in there. We are waiting to see there. There's also talk of Wakiso Giants midfielder Rahman Senfuka joining Police FC after ending his 4 years at, of course, at Wakiso Giants. So we are waiting to see whether that will happen. NEC have showed interest as well in Maroons midfielder Ronald Orombi. We are waiting to see. You remember he confirmed his departure from Solito Bright Stars, and we are waiting to see whether that will be happening in there. No, that is for the Solito Bright Stars. That is another player. That is Kaka Omoni, who is really looking to complete a move to Villa. So sorry, I mixed that up. Goma here are also looking at Dennis Omendi. Dennis Omendi, I think that to me was the biggest, for me, the biggest story of the week. Dennis Omendi as, of course, one of the players that have been very key for Kitara FC, and still one player that they really want to stay at their team. He has a year still remaining, but I think the pressure that comes in with these big teams such as Goma here that give a lot of money and prefer giving a player a wonderful as well as good environment for him to elevate his career. He's scored, of course, 14 goals for this team, only 3 goals shy of KCC's, that is Shaban Muhammad, who was the lead top scorer for this season in that is the Uganda Super League with 17 goals. So his assist for Shaban's winning goal, you remember, against Botswana was one of the few highlights that in the past weeks has really shown how he has grown to be another player. So you were waiting to see. You remember when he was at Boma FC in the FIFA Big League, he was still top scorer with 22 goals. So he's looking like a player that can really elevate his career, especially on the local scene, but also on the international scene. In the Cranes team, he looks like he's really elevating himself and getting better in there. Still in the transfer speculation, there is talk of URA as well, having confirmed the departure of 3 members of their technical staff. You remember that the likes of Robert Mukasa, who served as interim manager, following that David Oboa will be leaving. Of course, the other players that have, the other people that have also left in there include goalkeeping coach Swaib Sebagara, Brian Okuba. Of course, they have also been part of that coaching staff, and they really confirmed Alex Isabi as their new head coach, and he will be assisted by Baka Senaburi Kasure as the first assistant manager, and Crespo Asiku as their second assistant manager. So there is change of guard, and we are waiting to see in the Damba Jamil will be replacing, that is Sebagara, as the goalkeeping coach, and you expect it to be something to do with a new revelation at them and you expect a new era of new coaching as well as new tactics, especially with Mr. Obua leaving. So Alexis Sabiri has a very big job, especially at URA, which reminds me of one of the things that really worries me, especially with the local coaches. There is a way we are shifting a lot of coaches in season these days, especially at big clubs, and to me, that worries me with the level of coaching as well as the level of professionalism that I think Mr. Mourinho has been talking about. Sometimes we need to wait for teams to grow for 1 or 2 seasons. Even firing managers, to me, having a manager for 1 season does not really do any good for any team. It destabilizes the team, and also the players are not given a chance to really get they're not given a chance to get used to a manager as well as the tactics. So we need to have discipline, especially. I don't know, FIFA cannot come in and start dominating what clubs do, but we need to have discipline, especially with the appointments and reappointments in there. And of course, on the local scene, looking at my time, I think my time is really eroding very fast. There's a lot of stuff that is happening, especially in the development of stadiums as well as infrastructure. You all know that Philip Omondi Stadium is also one of the few stadiums that is being constructed. I had, of course, a story this week. We had FIFA coming out and inspecting the progress. You remember they are creating a stand in there. The Philip Omondi Stadium, the home of KCCA, there is progress that is happening, and we expect it to be also another stadium that will be used as a training facility for the CAF, or you can call it the African Cup of Nations of 2027. You also expect it to be a training ground for the Chan Games. So it's one of the few stadiums that is being constructed. On the other side, we had, like we all know, Hoima Stadium. We had the designs already out and the contracts are already signed. Kibwa Stadium is also on course to be started on. We all know that even there is talk of other facilities, not only football, but even the High Altitude Center all the way in Kapchora. We had a story that came in from the past few weeks coming in, and of course, talking about how the contractor really did not do good stuff, shady work, and of course, the Minister of State for Sports, Mr. Peter Ogwang, coming out and complaining and showing his dissatisfaction with the way things were done. And of course, it was 95% complete, but we're expecting a lot in the other phases, because phase 1 was about creating the running track and all the other stuff, but also phase 2 and 3 will include the likes of a 5-star hotel, hostels as well, a helicopter pad and a helicopter pad where helicopters can land, and all the other things in there. It looks like infrastructure in Uganda is really getting to the level. And there is also talk of another gentleman who just recently this week visited Uganda by the names of Dr. Charles Daniel Smith. He's a former NBA star, and if you've been watching basketball, he's one of the few players that are, of course, very tall players. He was in Uganda here, and he met the president, and of course, he was exploring potentials of investment in the country's sports infrastructure. He's known, of course, for his career all the way in the LA Clippers, in that team that also won, that also was in the Olympic campaign. I think it was in 1988. So he's a player that, and of course now he's a real estate developer as well as a businessman. So he's focusing on sports and entertainment ventures. And one of the things that is an artistic impression from what is going to be built in Zanzibar. They are going to be building a sports and entertainment hub in Zanzibar. So that is the plan. He was in Kenya as well, meeting. That is one of he's a prior. In fact, I think he's a prime cabinet secretary and secretary for foreigner and diaspora affairs. His name is called Musiala Mudavadi. That is the name. That gentleman from Kenya. He's also another gentleman that he met. So he looks like he's exploring opportunities, especially around East Africa, seeing, where he can invest, especially in these sports related and entertainment related hubs. And it looks like a good venture. They are looking at constructing indoor stadiums and all that stuff. But I have these feelings that these people, I don't know who really relates them to these African countries. Sometimes I see an Akon in them. I'm sorry to say this, but I see an Akon in them. Yes, they have good ideas. but sometimes they rotate and exploit the local communities and local governments as well as funds to really do their business gain. Sometimes some of them come with good ideas, but they don't have the funding, and I am not expected to welcome a foreigner who does not have his own funding or does not have a strategy where he's going to get the funding. That is why you see the Akon City project is really in dust, and you cannot even say there's even any progress. I saw images of where he was supposed to be building that in Senegal, his home country, and it was very disappointing to only find just the design of the gate, just the gate itself entering into the city that has been constructed. So there's something about these investors that really worries me. But when it comes to sports infrastructure, I really want to see it being developed. I really want to see an indoor arena at Lugogo, a new indoor arena. And to me, I'm very happy that the government is taking that initiative. It is one of the few things that they are working with the Suma, MS Suma from Turkey, that construction company. I want to see a lot develop, especially in the infrastructure, because it even gives jobs for the youth. And just in the coming 2027 African Cup of Nations, we need to find a way of maximizing it. Our media houses, our media personalities, our people all over the country need to find sports where they can really put their energy and maximize their experience. Because if we don't do that, then we shall leave the 2027 African Cup of Nations and all the other tournaments just empty-handed, and will not even have had an experience when it comes to working and enjoying these professional and high-end tournaments in there.